We have a surprise?
We have a surprise guest.
Oh, we have a surprise guest, yes. And our guest speaker of the night is Mr. Rex Pickett, who is seated there. And Rex wrote the novel Sideways, which is the preeminent film on wine and an incredible book. And he has just penned the sequel, Vertical, which he's going to be talking about, and which it hasn't even been released yet. These are
Not even released.
first 200 copies.
And these are bootleg editions that he's going to sign for everyone.
Oh my God! So I am very excited to tell you about our guest. As Roy mentioned earlier, we have Rex Pickett here, and he is honestly the creative genius that changed the industry of wine in a lot of different ways. I think one, he made people talk about wine. Two, he completely killed Merlot. Half a Merlot. And three, I think he took some of the snobbery and helps initiate that movement out of wine as well. And I'm going to introduce Rex to come and take it away from here. He can do a much better job than I can.
Wow, I met Michelle, excuse me, I'm in the midst of a controlled panic attack here, so I can either faint or it could go either way, or maybe I'll get on a roll here, I don't know. I had a whole thing planned about how my ex-wife, when she read Sideways, my agent read it, loved it, and so I gave it to her and I said, Barbara, you gotta read this, you know, I think I'm onto something here. And so she read it and she said, Rex, you gotta burn it. She told me to burn it, so I'm not joking. And it's a long story, and I'm going to cut to the chase, and I'm just going to open up for questions, because a lot of you are standing and drinking, and we got this 9:30 amateur curfew, whatever. But, so then she, roll up her sleeves, because we made 2 indie features in the 80s, and she produced them, and I directed them, and she acted in them, but the second one was released by Island Pictures. They butchered it and bombed, and obviously I couldn't get a performance from her in front of the camera, and evidently, retrospectively, not in the bedroom either. Where am I going here? See, I got my Xanax here. I'm set, man. I might have to go for another half milligram. I'd like to thank modern psychopharmacology. So she decided, she was my story editor, and she's great. She now teaches at NYU, and she literally told me to burn it. She said, it's going to ruin your career, Rex. I said, Barbara, what f***ing career? I mean, I'm totally broke. I got some agents going out with it. I mean, if I could have afforded a gun at that time, I would have killed myself. And it's true. And so she's going to roll, and she comes over, and she got to the scene where they go back and get the wallet, and Miles is sort of enlisted by Jack to go in, and then that naked guy chases her out. And she had every page with a big X through it. Get rid of, get rid of, get rid of. And anyway, so long story short, so Alexander Payne calls me next day. He's the director of the film, and it was after election, and he's the kind of guy in this business who, if he wants to do something within reason, it's going to get made. He has green lighting power, and that's like the holy grail for a writer. So because when I wrote it 9 weeks. And although actually it took 10 years because I started going up. No, really, I started going up to San Diego. I started going up there to play golf initially. I didn't even know there were wineries up there. So he called me up and said, Rex the King, I love your novel. It's going to be my next movie. Actually, Bob Schmidt was. I had to sweat it out another 2 years. He said, I was reading it. I was turning the pages. It was so funny. It was just, and I just thought it was going to go conventional. I was just so worried or whatever. But when I got to that scene where they goes in to get the wallet and chases that guy, that's when I knew I was going to make this movie. And every time I see Barbara, I say, Barbara, because she told me to cut that scene, and I almost cut that scene from the book. So it's one of those. I don't know where I was going with that. Maybe there is a reason for divorce. Okay, here it is, from the horse's mouth. 7 years later, Miles is now a successful author, and a movie's been made of his novel, and so now he's a bit of a celebrity dealing with that. Jack, of course, is divorced. No one knew that was going to last, Believe that. And he's on the skids and can't get work. And Miles' mother's had a stroke, and she's in an assisted living facility, but wants to be with her sister in Wisconsin. So when Miles gets offered to be the master of ceremonies, as I was at the International Pinot Noir Celebration, a huge event in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, Miles decides to lease a handicap ramp van, and he piles in Jack as his co-captain, and his mom in a wheelchair, and they, in a funny scene, they get her rascally Yorkie Terrier back from an ex-girlfriend and they're supposed to bring it up for visitation that she has, and that's a funny scene, and they all pile into this van, and a pot-smoking Filipino caretaker. And they all head to Willamette en route to Wisconsin, but then, you know, things happen or whatever.
Like, do you trust yourself always like that?
I don't know, I mean, when you told me it was going to be all women, I was like, you know, I was like stunned, and when I come here, I felt like, God, I had awakened to the ultimate Match.com convention. First name I've gotten right.